Oh my god, did you guys watch the countdown? I can't believe they were robbed from number one yet again. You know who I voted for, right? Australia's music identity has long been tied to its incredible history of vibrant and energetic bands, but recent trends in the Triple J's Hottest 100 suggest that international record labels might be tightening their grip on what was once a bastion of homegrown talent. With only 29 Australian tracks making it into the top 100 countdown, the lowest it's ever been since 1996, it's time to ask whether Triple J is losing its Australian soul. This year, Chapel Roan's Good Luck Babe secured the top spot, while Sydney's Royal Otis managed a strong number 2 with their cover of Murder on the Dance Floor, which is both a cover and not an Australian song, but whatever, we'll give them it. As the dust settles from the outrage of who was robbed or not, the overreaching narrative is quite bleak for our homegrown industry. Australian acts made up less than 29% of the Hottest 100. The rest, a procession of international-backed heavyweights backed by major labels, benefiting from musical sync and distribution deals, as well as access to teams of PR and social media managers, as well as a couple of independent artists as well. Compare this result to, say, 1999, a watershed moment when Powderfingers these days topped a chart dominated by 52 Australian entries. Back then, Aussie artists reigned supreme, reflecting a time when Triple J was synonymous with local pride and discovery. Now fast forward to 2024, and the disconnect is palpable. Now look, this is not a comparison on whether music has gotten better or worse, or the old man yelling at cloud meme about back in my day music was good. I'm a strong believer in our national music scene. Look, check out artists like Parkway Drive, Amyl and the Sniffers, Troye Sivan, who came in at number 30 by the way, but only because it was a collaboration with Charlie XCX, another international superstar. The Kid Laroi, Dom Dulla, G-Flip. We've got so much talent here in Australia. We do not have a talent problem, we have a distribution problem. Now look, one of the big issues here at play is the ever-increasing market dominance of mainly USA-based artists, backed up by major labels, which are then being pushed to our national radio stations, social media, and even our own national broadcaster. Now let's take a little bit of a quick sidestep and look at the ARIA charts. Now the Hottest 100 decline in Australian representation isn't just an isolated issue. ARIA's 2024 year-end charts paint an even bleaker picture. Not a single Australian song released in 2024 made it to the top 100 singles charts. Now keep in mind that ARIA stands for Australian Recording Industry Association, but I'm not really seeing much Australian representation going on here. The only homegrown albums to crack the year-end top 100 were greatest hits compilations from Cold Chisel and In Excess, alongside the Kid Laroi's The First Time, which is a fantastic album, you should definitely check it out. The album chart's highest new release by an Australian act, Amyl and the Sniffers, Cartoon Darkness, didn't even make the cut. However, they did appear on the Hottest 100 at 32 and 34. They were robbed. The numbers here speak volumes. In the ARIA single chart, Australians accounted for 5% of the entries. On the albums chart, it was a dismal 3%. Addressing this, ARIA CEO Annabel Heard told the Music Network, "A lack of Australian artists reflected in the end-of-year charts is unfortunately not new news. Given the long discourse between ARIA, the industry, and media around this, and what can be done to shift it, the annual chart result should come as no surprise." Heard's statement reflects the entrenched nature of the issue and highlights the ongoing challenges in ensuring local talent gains visibility, especially on a globalised stage. And look, we can take a sidestep again and talk about Australia's festival scene. Australia's music festivals once rivaled the Hottest 100 as the pulse of our cultural identity, providing platforms for local acts to flourish and fans to celebrate homegrown talent. Think of things like Big Day Out, Soundwave, Splendour in the Grass, Homebake. These just weren't events, they were the lifeblood of a thriving scene that propelled Australian artists into the spotlight. And yes, it brought in international artists as well, but it gave Australians a chance to perform on big stages and be exposed to new audiences. Today, much like the declining Australian presence in the Hottest 100, these festivals are relics of a time when Australian music dominated our own charts. As we've done in other stories, link here from Michael West Media, the rise of corporate monopolies like Live Nation has exacerbated this decline. With a stranglehold on ticketing and venues and their predatory practices like dynamic pricing, Live Nation is turning live music into a luxury. We've also got the case of them taking government grants and then closing down festivals, but we'll save that for another story. The collapse of festivals is more than just a cultural loss. It's an economic blow to Australian artists who rely on these stages. Festivals were once launch pads for acts like Tame Impala and Flume and Chet Faker. Now, with fewer opportunities and the dominance of international labels, the gap between the local airtime and the actual success widens. The Hottest 100's dwindling Australian representation is mirrored in the loss of festivals, another victim of a system prioritising profit over culture. Without intervention, this erosion will only get worse. And you can be sure that here on Michael West Media, we're going to do a full report on the state of Australian festivals. There's a lot of stuff and data and money that goes into all of this kind of stuff. So stay posted for that. Now also we've got the algorithm disadvantage, right? So streaming platforms like Spotify, TikTok and Meta dominate how music is consumed globally. Their algorithmic driven recommendations increasingly prioritize international artists as they make deals with these big international publishers. In Australia, this has created an uphill battle for local musicians to gain visibility. Despite efforts by Australian artists to adapt to the TikTokification of music, where short, viral-ready content reigns supreme, international record labels backed by lucrative deals with these platforms still hold the upper hand. Now, TikTok's algorithms in particular have completely transformed the landscape for independent musicians, but often it's at a significant cost to the artists themselves. Viral success on the platform rarely translates into financial gain, as we often see horror stories of musicians receiving pennies for hundreds of thousands of streams over the course of a year. This simply is just not sustainable. Platforms claim to support artists by providing exposure, whatever that means, but with a limited compensation and a focus on international acts, many Australian musicians are left feeling like unpaid interns. So look, I've done a lot of complaining, a lot of whinging so far. How do we actually fight for our own sound? Look, while Triple J isn't solely to blame here, obviously, the station must take stock of its role as a cultural gatekeeper. Its legacy as a champion of Australian music is at risk. Meanwhile, industry leaders must push for harder solutions like content quotas or mandatory Australian acts on international tours to ensure that local artists have a fighting chance. International success for Australian artists hinges on a strong home front. We could look at Canada's 35% homegrown mandate, meaning that all the broadcasters in the country need to have a minimum of 35% programming from Canadian artists. Now currently Triple J is 40% and in reality they broadcast more than 55%, but for commercial stations it currently sits at 0. Why do you think you constantly hear Back in Black and K-San over and over again when you're sitting in the car? There's no mandates for putting new and original music on the airwaves, so they're just going to stick to the classics, right? With collaborative efforts and meaningful investment, Australia's music scene can thrive, both at home and on the global stage. Just like Annabelle Heard's comment at Big Sound 2024, we've got 99 problems and talent isn't one. Now, the ARIAs are taking a really positive step. They have transformed their ARIA Awards nights to include more Australian artists instead of flying in international acts. They've also started a new program called Amplified, which is a great resource to check on what's actually going on in the Australian music industry. I suggest you guys check it out and give it a subscribe if you're interested. If we can implement some of these policies to help back our national artists, then they can have a chance at fighting global behemoths like Sony, UMG, and Warner Music. As the ARIA charts and Hottest 100 have shown, Australian music is not lacking quality, it's lacking the spotlight. Now let's hope that 2025 brings some return to form. Now get out there and go to a bloody gig. Hey guys, my name is Josh Barnett. I am the editor and producer here over at The West Report. I'm also a professional musician and have been for about 10 years now, so this is a topic that's very, very close to my heart. If you like what we do here, feel free to chuck us a few bucks down in the Patreon below. Chuck us a like, share or comment if you so desire. See you soon.